I'm Algimantas. I live in Lithuania, a small East European country. Today is 16th of January, 2026. Plenty of snow, very wide plain around me. The snow is so white that it makes me feel great satisfaction just to see so innocently white snow. And the temperature is around minus 12 centigrade. But it's warm in my heart. I feel this warmth because I live my life consecrated to Creator, the Paradise Trinity I am. And it's so wonderful to have this living relationship, this communion with Creator Himself directly, without any priest in between. Because Creator has bestowed His own fragment, thought adjuster, upon our mind. Therefore, we, each of us, being a spiritual personality, can establish a living communion, a living relationship with Creator through the operation of His fragment, thought adjuster within. And once you are in a living communion with Creator, you are filled up with top frequency vibrations out of Creator. And this warmth being felt in my heart are truly the living top frequency vibrations of Creator. The problem of the current humanity is the lack of this living communion with Creator, because their animal origin mind is dominating their life, and the animal origin mind is truly filled up with vices, jealousy, covetousness, desire to dominate all physically, politically, economically, socially. All this is happening out of fear, subconscious fear, because people consciously might not feel this fear. But if they get into certain definite circumstances, this fear might spring up out of their subconsciousness to the level of their consciousness. For instance, you don't feel any fear on your conscious level of death. But if you just are struck by some disease, and if you feel miserable physically, you begin to think about death more often than not. And especially in the case if you are being told that this is a very serious illness and the outcome of it might be even the fatal. That's why the warmth from Creator is the remedy from all diseases, from all illnesses, because these vibrations not only warm up the physical body, but also strengthens one's spiritual personality. And the budding, the waking up of the spiritual mind begins to sprout its own operation against the animal origin mind dominance. And it is only with one's spiritual mind dominating the personality that this body submits itself to the spiritual mind domination. All creation is material, but it is under the control of spirit, of spiritual mind. That's it. When Jesus was one of us and among us 2,000 years ago, so he was in our human material form. He was born as a helpless babe out of his material mother's womb. Just imagine being born as a helpless baby and having Creator Spirit fragment, thought adjuster, once he made the very first moral decision. So he was growing like an ordinary child, like you, like me, like anyone else on the planet. And not only on this planet, on all the planets that host humans, mortals. And there are 7 trillion planets with humans. 7,000 billion planets with humans in the current creation. And there are plenty of planets with souls, our next stage of personality, identity, development, and education. And still plenty of planets with spirits, still a higher level of development of the personality identity. So he was growing like all mortals, being born as helpless baby out of the mother's womb, grow. He came to this planet just to acquire experience from birth to death, what it means being immortal, having this material flesh body, how to control this animal origin mind full of vices by replacing it by the human mind, by the divine mind of a human. Divine, that is, by the mind of the spiritual personality that has been bestowed by Creator. Because our personality is not that which is born as a helpless baby. Not at all. Our personality is spiritual. That is the living content that is filled up by the parents, by the school, by the street, by the books, films, different videos, by the science discoveries. So all this spiritual personality is changeless. It's a gift of and from Creator to each of us as a living being, as a life form, having the order of a personality, enjoying the choice by one's free will, also bestowed upon us by Creator. So our personality is changeless. This is our person. I is always I. It can never turn into you, or into they, or into we. It's always remaining this very same person, I. But the identity of this I is changing depending upon what is being filled into our true living being, into our true living entity within this material body. If I'm filling up a vessel with mud, so it will be the vessel full of mud. But if I fill it with the pure and crystal water, it will be a crystal and clean water vessel. The content is this very personality. The content, the personality identity. The personality is I. And your personality is also your I. And anyone's personality is anyone's I. The first person in the singular, not in the plural, not we. And your I as a person, spiritual personality, shall always remain this very same person that is listening to my teaching right now. Meanwhile, your identity will be enormously expanded because you will learn a lot of things on the way to paradise, to our native home, true home, because we have been bestowed our own personality by Creator, who is in this very home, paradise. It's His energy accumulation center. and being the source and center of all energy. Creator is, say, storing this energy on his dwelling abode, paradise. So Jesus, 2,000 years ago, acquired the experience, what it means to live in this material form for a spiritual personality who was born as a helpless baby, who has undergone the development of his personality identity through his babyhood, early childhood, teenage years, youth, early adulthood. He has accumulated this experience just to better know what these material creatures, being spiritual personalities, experience, especially on such planets that have been touched by the revolt against the Father. And they experienced isolation from other planets and from the supervision and teachings from the superior spiritual personalities. What it means once humanity is left to develop within its own juice without having any brighter light as humanity. The humanity history lasts for 1 million years. So the last 200,000 years was in darkness. In darkness that was even killing those proclaiming light. Prophets would be killed by this very same darkness of humanity. And Jesus, when he withstood all temptations by Satan, proposed to him on the Mount of Hermon, expressing his only desire, let the Father's be done. He elevated the Father. Meanwhile, Satan wanted that he would diminish, belittle the Father, and even deny his existence. So by this withstanding of Satan's temptation, Jesus has finished officially this revolt against the Father that has lasted for 200,000 years, not only on our planet, but also on another 36 planets with humans, and in the Satania local system that at the moment hosted 609 planets with humans. So Satania is one of 10,000 local systems within one local universe. And this local universe has been created by our Creator Son, who has bestowed himself on our planet as Jesus of Nazareth. And in his mission was also an additional requirement from the Paradise Trinity to end this revolt, to end it officially, formally. And Jesus did it. And that happened 2,000 years ago. Jesus' life and teachings, when he was operating on his personal ministry, have not been described in any other book, but in this epochal revelation, the Urantia book. Urantia is the name of our planet as registered in the annals of Creator. So Jesus, while being still alone without his apostles, he was studying people. And he used every opportunity to study people. And he was doing good to others. He didn't try to attract others' attention, but it was just obvious that such a person who is full of grace and spiritual grandeur, and who does goodness without any desire to be thanked for this, without showing the slightest intention that he would receive some reward, of course, attracts people's attention. He was offered to go to Damascus, and this offer arrived from a group of Damascus people who wanted to establish a spiritual center in Damascus. And they wanted that Jesus would lead this center, would be the head of the center. And the group of businessmen, merchants, well, businessmen in our contemporary terms, merchants and bankers, gave their money to support Jesus on his world travel, just to get acquainted with the spiritual centers of learning, what they are teaching, how they are operating, that he would be using this knowledge after he is back to Damascus. But Jesus, without being able to expose his mission on earth, politely declined this offer. And the delegation could not realize why such an honorable position being offered to this man was declined. on another occasion, he was invited to be a spiritual teacher, assistant of Hazan in Alexandria. And again, Jesus declined this offer. Because he had in mind that his mission was to reveal God to man, but not showing the example that others might be trying to copy, but living his own life as a person, as his I, true I, that he is filling up with Creator's top frequency vibrations when he is communing with the Father, when he is expressing himself to the Father, when he is trying to be sincere in this communion with the Father, and doing good deeds to others for the benefit of all. So that was the purpose of Jesus, to reveal the Father, to explain to them what their life should be in brotherhood, when the Father is for all one, and they are all brethren among themselves, and that they should also live their own lives as their own I person. They wouldn't copy his example, but they would be their own I in living their own lives. Because our personality is the original gift by Creator. There are no copies of your personality, of my personality, of anyone's personality. Therefore, it's even impossible to copy anyone. Impossible. You cannot imitate others living. How can you imitate the standing on the ground when you are standing next to somebody else? Imitate this physical standing. You cannot imitate because you are standing next to this person. It's another piece of ground, not this that this person is standing on. Therefore, Jesus' life cannot be copied, but the teachings that he was promoting by trying to expand man's understanding who is Father, that he is within. Therefore, he was saying you should set up the divine kingdom in your heart. And the king is the Father of this kingdom. It's not what you see around as the material kingdoms with kings material, with armies, material, with military clashes between the kingdoms. It should be established within your heart. It's spiritual. Therefore, had Jesus' gospel, the fatherhood of God and brotherhood of man, be not distorted, had not been distorted, we would not have any military conflict. We would not have any crime and disease, illness. Just by one gospel, converting it into our living with true, living, and real Creator within our heart, discovered within our heart, and experiencing Him within. And each of us experiencing Him within, discovered. So how can you commit crime against any brother or sister in spirit of yours? How can you have any military campaign against another country? It would be impossible. And this is the price that we pay for what apostles of Jesus for what they distorted. By taking Jesus' teachings in a wrong way. So in spiritual issues, spiritual precision has and plays an enormous importance. When Jesus resurrected, apostles heard the news about His appearances to Mary and some other people. But once He appeared before the apostles, so Peter, who has abandoned Jesus when He was arrested at night, 4 times betrayed Jesus in this very same night. And then he was suffering all the time, and he was even thinking that Jesus did not appear before the apostles just due to his betrayal, because of his betrayal of Jesus. And he decided just to step aside from the group, that Jesus might appear before this group. And right in this very moment, Jesus appeared before him, before Peter. And Peter was so enthralled with this that he rushed to the apostles and said, yeah, I talked with Jesus. I saw him. He did resurrect. He is alive. But the other apostles, being aware of his hot temper and a very vivid imagination, well, ignored his confession. So Jesus was the teacher of all disciples and apostles. And apostles were just fishermen, boat builders. They were ordinary people, rough, strong physically men, but they were not teachers. Judas Iscariot was the only more educated and the only one from Judea. The others were from Galilee. Of course, they graduated from the synagogue schools, but they had no any specialized education. And when Judas Iscariot abandoned them, and when Jesus appeared before the group of apostles, so Peter, who was always doing before thinking, so after the appearance he was also again feeling a high enthusiasm within, and he was just calling on his brethren, okay, go and proclaim that Jesus has risen. He is living. He has given life for us, and when Jesus again appeared, he warned, don't distort my gospel. You don't have to proclaim my resurrection. You have to proclaim the good tidings. Father is for all one. So just establish the heavenly kingdom in your heart. And if you believe in this gospel, if you have faith in this gospel, so this is the outcome, resurrection. You don't have to proclaim this result, outcome of your faith in this divine kingdom in your heart. So that's why I'm trying to attract your attention that in spiritual matters, just even the slightest intention to correct something what is already given to you might lead to an enormous negative outcome within generations. Had not been this gospel distorted, apostles did not quarrel among themselves, would not have quarreled among themselves, and they would have supported one another. But they did not support one another. And when they went by one, they proclaimed what they had in their heart. And that's, of course, far from what Jesus taught them to. So 700 years later, Muhammad appeared and set up the Muslim religion. It would have not been necessary to do it had not apostles, and especially Paul, would not set up this Christianity religion that has nothing to do with Jesus but having his name. Just imagine, when Jesus was taking his brother in his biological Mary's family, Simon, to Jerusalem, when he was 14 years, Simon, his brother, was some 14 years old. So on this trip, he encountered a young man, Stephen, and they found common language, and they had a 4-hour discourse on the Father, on the life with the Father. And this affected Stephen. He was a Greek. So this encounter with Jesus had a very profound effect on Stephen. And much later, when he heard about the carpenter from Galilee proclaiming his teaching, he did not manage to trace back to this very same person that he had conversed in Jerusalem, that he had conversed with in Jerusalem. But the teachings of that Galilean carpenter made a big impact on his spiritual personality. And subsequently, he was boldly proclaiming the heavenly kingdom idea and criticizing the Jewish teachings, synagogues, and the Jews stoned him to death for, according to them, blasphemy. So Stephen was the first martyr among the disciples of Jesus. And when the then Saul was seeing how boldly Stephen was facing his death, it affected him that he began to get interested in the teachings of Jesus. And then he, well, after some time, changed his name into Paul and became the one who established Christianity. So I want to attract your attention to invisible links, just like an accidental encounter of Jesus with Stephen when he had taken to Jerusalem his younger brother Simon. This encounter led Stephen to open up his spiritual personality, to allow the sprouting of his spiritual mind that touched his heart. And subsequently, when he heard about that carpenter, that was 15 years later, after this encounter with Jesus, that he began to proclaim this, being a Greek, proclaim Jesus' gospel. And when he was being stoned by the Jewish believers for his, well, attack on the synagogue and their teachings, and seeing this man die for his belief, for his faith, changed something within this man watching this episode, Saul, who had also persecuted the followers of Jesus. And this transformation led him to changing his name into Paul and set up Christianity. Everything is not simply a lucky or unlucky chance in creation. Everything is orchestrated and controlled when passing a message from one to another by, as if, accidental encounters. There is no accident in the universe. And how this accidental, as if accidental encounter might change something for the better or worse depends upon the one who is receiving a brighter light, how he is going to use it for the well-being of all. And again, that remains upon one's personality's free choice. And if that free personality has a living communion with Creator, The decision will be for the well-being of all. If this personality has any communion with Creator and does not even want to listen anything about Creator, so the outcome would be just the opposite. And this is evolution. This is the trail of evolution. It goes either to Creator's light upwards or degrading downwards. Nowadays, we have degraded immensely since the times of Jesus, immensely in spirit. Even though materially we are on the very peak. But Jesus' gospel, the fatherhood of man, the fatherhood of God and brotherhood of man, we would have directed humanity in a different vector. We would have turned humanity to the Father, to Creator, rather than to different sects, sectarian religions, and alienation, and even aggression among different religions, sects, political factions, parties, countries. This is degradation of human mind. And because humanity is orphan without the Father, without Creator, discovered within in one's heart. Therefore, open up to Creator sincerely. Open up. You will begin to feel peace within. Just do it sincerely. Once you begin to feel peace within, you will begin to believe my words, and you will begin to like this sensation, not from outer and chemical medicine when you try to grab a pill or a tablet and swallow when you are nervous, or take a shot of whiskey or vodka or a glass of wine. It's not the case. You are degrading by every shot of whiskey or vodka, by every glass of wine. You are degrading. I know what I speak of. Go upwards within, without taking a pill of medicine, without any chemicals. Open up to Creator. If you have some ailments, you'll begin to feel how Creator is healing you. He's keeping you in good health. The problem is that you have to take in this good health already given to you. It is your effort that rewards you with robust health. Once you are in a living communion with Creator, every day your living material cell is feeling the rhythm of Creator. I told you before, the body is controlled by spirit, by your spiritual personality. And once this spiritual personality is in a living communion with Creator, this top frequency vibrations being experienced by your spiritual personality, identity, is passing this energy vibrations to every physical cell of the body, and it begins to straighten up when it was under an enormous pressure, in a stress in your central nervous system, in your animal origin mind, which is controlling you. Therefore, try to open up your spiritual mind bestowed by Creator. And in this case, your body shall give you a lot of thanks, and you will be satisfied to have freed yourself of vices and different illusionary ailments in the body. Okay, I wish you a sincere communion with Creator.